Um,
Hello, Bradley.
I don't know how to introduce this one. Welcome to the lockdown sessions, my mum and dad.
I don't like mum and dad. I like mummy and daddy.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, welcome, mum and dad, to the lockdown sessions. And we've been asking people over the last 6 weeks whether you should be the last episode on this podcast. And everybody has said yes. So I'm delighted to have you here. And I start every session really in exactly the same way. And I'm going to pose the same question to you as to everybody else. Actually, I've got one before because we had some requests of a question before that. So you've got 4 kids. I'm number 3. Out of all of them, who's your favorite? Go on.
You nasty piece of work asking that question.
All right, Dad, do you want to answer that?
I'll answer it.
And I'll kill him afterwards. Okay.
No, I actually, when it comes to the definition of favourite,
yeah, right.
I don't think we have any one favourite, but we have a collection of favourites depending on the particular skills of the individual.
He's so diplomatic.
Right. He's very diplomatic. You definitely worked in charities for a lot of your career with that kind of political swap. But
and I've just thrown up.
we all know who your favourite is, really.
Yes,
but
exactly.
thank you for that. They all start the same way. These conversations, which are, we've been locked down for a year. You guys have had your first jab or second as well. Your second's coming.
Coming this week.
Right. Okay. So you'll be second jabbed. I had my first jab yesterday. So we're coming out of it. We're coming into a post-COVID world. But what have you learned when you look back over the last year? I mean, literally, you guys flew into the country on March the 9th, 2020. And apart from a few car journeys or walks when we could, you've not left your flat for a year.
No.
That's right.
Wow, basically. How have you done it?
Well, I've learned that I'm very grateful for what I've got, that I've got Daddy with me, because a lot of my friends are widows and they've been on their own, and that is so sad. And I keep in touch with 8 people regularly, 8 ladies daily, to see how they're getting on, and just so that they receive a phone call. That's what I've learned.
And I've learned patience.
The irony between mother and son is excellent. Yes, go on.
I've learned patience, because the only way, when it started, when we first came back and landed in this country and then started with the lockdown, I couldn't plan 3 months, 4 months, 5 months because of the indecision. And with my profession, I like planning. And I like finite planning. I don't like vague planning. So on the basis of making finite planning, I felt I could plan a week at a time.
Right.
So I took 1 week and I planned my week. And when I got to the end of the week, I planned the following week. And therefore, to some extent, it's gone quicker than I would have thought it would have gone.
Yeah.
Right.
When you sit here and say a whole year, it sounds, 365 days is one hell of a time.
Right.
But it wasn't for me. I took it at a week at a time. The first thing really I learned, I think, from it, well, apart from the obvious of patience, and Mummy and I have always worked in slightly different environments. And the strength, I think, of our relationship has been the fact that we meet by appointment on certain times of the day and the week.
Right.
We have our own lives. We have our own lives, which are very, very busy.
Yeah.
And the first thing I learned was, hang on, chaps, we've got to stop it all. We've got to pull up the drawbridge and stop doing anything.
You're making such a speech here. Go on. Oh, for God's sake.
I want Bradley to get value for money. I'm a chartered accountant with over 50 years post-qualification experience.
Boring.
No, but there's something interesting there, because all the clients I work with, they said the same thing. Exactly the same thing. You've taken a business approach. Actually, the skills you used in business, actually you've used to cope with crisis.
So have I.
Every business that I speak to isn't planning more than 3 months. And as a result is week by week.
Yeah.
And they're reinventing their products because what they used to do is irrelevant now.
I've reinvented my work.
Right.
It's
you would be going out as a music teacher, sitting with young people and teaching. That's difficult when you can't fix houses.
No, and driving round at night.
Right.
Coming home at 9:30 at night.
So actually, Zoom's been great for you.
It's been brilliant because I do it all from home and I finish at 7 o'clock every evening.
Which is perfect. What about the fact that you couldn't see your friends? How have you kept in touch?
FaceTime.
We FaceTime
Zoom.
a lot. We've Zoomed. I have a typical of being sort of a little pedantic in one's ways. I have a weekly coffee morning. About 4 of us used to go out for coffee once a week. And of course, as soon as we're in lockdown, we can't. So we have a Zoom coffee break, which lasts for anything from 40 minutes to an hour and a half on a Wednesday morning. And that's the sort of focus of the midweek session. And we get ourselves up to date with all sorts of stuff. And it's 4 different minds coming together from completely different disciplines with all sorts of different ideas about what goes on.
And do you all
I've just been told to be quiet, Bradley.
Do you just all have a good moan?
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine it's like an hour and a half.
We don't. Well, we don't on our Zooms. I have Zooms every day with one particular friend. I have Zoom once a week with your lovely wife, Emma. I don't know how she puts up with her in-laws every week for half an hour. I don't know, but we enjoy it. And we have a coffee morning with 3 ladies. And 2 o'clock twice a week, I Zoom another lady friend. So the weeks have gone, and it's always Friday. Friday seems to come around so quickly.
Right. But it is the same thing. So one of the things I've talked to people a lot about is how easy it is to get institutionalized almost.
We are.
Well, that was my question, because, you know, for organizations that I work with, it's about getting people back into offices at some point. What about for you guys? Because it's not just
I think we
social life, it's family.
No, I think what we've been looking for is some degree of safety. At the moment, we feel quite vulnerable and at risk, even though we've had the first jab, the first vaccination. So I think when we've got a sort of plan that says we have our second vaccination next Tuesday, and by the end of April, that period of 3 to 4 weeks post the second vaccination has gone, and then we will review the situation in light of what the roadmap says we can do and can't do. I mean, it is possible that when we get into May, we might be able to go into we will be able to go into people's gardens. We might even be able to have people,
have the children, have all of you round.
Have you round to our flat. Whereas at the moment, nobody's set foot in the door for over a year.
Right.
So we're hoping that when we can invite 6 or 2 families, then our children will be the first in line for that experience before we start thinking about some of our friends. And obviously, once that works, then we'll consider passing it on to our best friends and do the same sort of thing in their homes and in our home.
But I've just got to interrupt and tell you, I'm glad to tell you, we were on a group Zoom with about 8 of our friends, couples, and we were asked, the one person said, would you all mute yourselves because Mr. So-and-so wants to speak? And what do you think your father said? Tell him what you said.
What did he say?
I said, with the advance of technology, it is an amazing opportunity for me to mute my wife from talking at the drop of a click.
I thought that was so rude. Is that rude, Bradley?
I mean, it's funny, but
they all laughed at my expense.
Funny,
yes,
but it was rude.
It was. Thank you.
But you're getting your own back now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, not half. And don't kid yourself. She hasn't got her own back ever since I said it.
But you're on Zoom like then. Like Zoom's been a lifesaver.
Yes.
Yes.
FaceTime.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. It's fantastic. I mean, I would hate to imagine what we've been all going through, and I don't mean just us. I mean the whole country, the world. If we didn't have technology as advanced as it is today, if we had to sit and watch television all day, every day, when we couldn't get out of the flat because the weather's bad,
we'd have killed each other by now.
we'd have probably committed murder.
Have you at any point considered it?
No.
What, committed murder?
Excuse me.
No.
No is the answer.
No, absolutely not. I can't afford it.
What about keeping fit in a flat?
It's more difficult. It's easier in our flat because we have the luxury of a very large terrace. So last summer, when we were stuck at home again, we were out on the terrace every day. We had coffee out there. We had lunch out there sometimes. We walked out there. We talked on the phone out there. We did all the electronic stuff you can do on the terrace. So we were out in the fresh air. So it made a tremendous difference to us. The thought of actually being in a flat without any outdoor opportunities, I think, is, well, I'm not surprised people are having mental health issues.
Well, I got onto YouTube and I found Mr. Motivator, who used to be on television years ago doing exercise. I don't know whether you remember him, Bradley.
I do. He was on ITV.
Yes, he's 68 now. I think
Right.
he's 68. And every morning I've never done exercise in my life, but every morning I wake up actually and my heart sinks to my boots. I feel very depressed from the first thing in the morning. So I go straight into the dining room and turn on Mr. Motivator and do my quarter of an hour of exercise. And I feel invigorated after that. So that's...
And while Mum's doing that, I'm on my bike and I do my 10 minutes, 12 minutes on a bike, cycling. And I feel better after that.
There is so much medical evidence that proves. I've got a weird thing going on my computer at the moment. So
what's going on?
Yeah, somehow the recording of my voice just popped up. There's a lot of data that shows when you do exercise, the release of the happy chemicals in the brain, right? And it's oxytocin and endorphins that you get. And that's what makes you feel good. And actually there's a link between dealing with mental health issues and actually getting physically fit. I didn't run for 5 weeks recently after a short injury. And the first time I went back, even though I ran just for half an hour instead of normally an hour, so not a long run at all, just 5K, I could feel the endorphins literally flooding my body afterwards. I felt amazing. And I realized how much I'd missed it. So will you carry it on once you're back doing everything else?
Definitely. Mr. Motivator and I are like this.
Oh, you're like this.
And it's funny, actually. Mr. Motivator motivates me because I've got the same window when Mummy goes in to do her Mr. Motivator. I can hear him making jokes in the background. So I get on my bike and I pedal like hell because I need to drown the noise that's coming from the other room.
But I have to tell you, Daddy is not very well coordinated because I said to him, come and do the exercises with me. And he couldn't do a lot of them. He couldn't coordinate arms and legs.
And I don't. You've obviously given that to me. Thanks a lot for that.
I'm sorry about that because I can't. The coordination of doing multifunctions with arms and legs in different directions.
You can't do that either, Bradley.
I can't.
I can do arms and legs, but my hand-eye coordination wasn't always great. It takes a lot of practice for me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
you get the good things from me, Bradley. That's obvious.
That's hereditary.
There you go. That explains a lot.
Well, he gets the looks from me, and
What are the things that have bothered you though over the last year? Because it couldn't have all been lovely, or could it? No, I don't want to judge, especially as you're my parents.
been lovely, hasn't it?
What?
The last year, we haven't found anything.
No, I think for me, I think it's because I've not enjoyed the best of health over this period, and there have been periods of anxiety, like at the moment. I have this, anxiety about getting COVID, which occupies my thought process most of the time, because I have a breathing issue at the moment, and that is not good. If I go out for a walk or go up a flight of stairs, I'm breathless, and going out with a mask on is even worse.
Right. So
I'm really anxious,
yeah,
frightened in that respect, because you see and you read so much about how horrible this condition is,
And we've lost
close friends that
yeah,
have passed away during this period. That there is a lot of fear, which I think is going to make coming out of this a much slower process, because we're going to take small steps when we're satisfied that we're safe.
Well, I heard an interesting line the other day, because someone in Europe, the European Council, was being asked about, how well we're doing with the rollout of our vaccine.
Yeah.
And they said it's great for the UK that it's going so well, but you're just going to be sat there on your island because nobody else will be allowed to let you in, because we haven't been done. I think the world's going to be quite slow at getting back, and everyone talks about a new normal, and I just say, look, this is now normal.
Yeah,
you're right.
I know it's going to be a new normal. This is normal. Let's just get on with it now. Work will be hybrid. If you look across your family, through your kids and partners, grandchildren, careers, businesses, some have been decimated and some have thrived. It's just totally random how it's affected everybody. And I think, you take a family where there's like 20 of us when we're all in a room, actually it's a good cross section of society.
But they've all tried to keep busy, which has been good. Everybody's tried to do something. I mean, the first 6 months I bought my A-level Latin book that I did, the Latin Iliad that I did for A-level, and I did it again, which was
cool.
mind-blowing. And then I've got 3 tapestries on the go that I'm doing. I did a 1,000-piece jigsaw of a painting by the famous artist Klimt, which was completed. I'm now doing a Van Gogh painting, 1,000 piece.
Which one?
It's the one of his bedroom.
The bedroom, famous bedroom.
Yes, and I've got one waiting for me. You Bagsy that one. And the last one I've got waiting is Renoir. When I've done the Van Gogh, the pianist.
The pianist,
yes.
Renoir.
So that's kept me busy. That's in between everything else and teaching. Yeah.
Right. So in between the Zooms, the exercise, the other Zooms, you also do the the tapestry.
So lucky I haven't had to go out shopping because I wouldn't have time.
But I think there's something in that, because, and Dad, you were saying it before actually, how grateful you were to have a garden, a terrace, because every problem that we've got when we've got an outside in this environment, feels like a first world problem. And I think I said it before on an earlier podcast, we talked about at the beginning, didn't we? Wash your hands. We kept telling each other, we were sending each other videos on it. And keep a safe distance if you're out. We would give each other cautionary tales. And I was talking to one of my coachees in India recently, and he was saying that they would hear this, social distance and wash your hands, permanently wash your hands. And he said that really presumes you've got running water in your house.
Yes.
Yes. Gosh, goodness.
Gosh, that's very
right, isn't that
sobering? Yeah, it's very sobering.
Yeah, and he'd been on a ventilator in hospital in India with COVID because there's 9 of them live in his house, and there's not enough room to socially distance. So they all had it in varying degrees of severity. And in some parts, there were times of the day when water didn't run. So and he was laughing. In fact, we were very quickly talking about cricket, and India were beating India at the time. India were beating England at the time, so he was happy. But it does, so I think, you can be grateful for having that chance to go outside.
Yes.
But, Mum, you're a very sociable person. You live and thrive off being with and around people. How have you kept sane?
Well, by keep being on the phone and talking on WhatsApp that way, and Zoom, and keeping out of Daddy's way a lot of the time. We meet at 1 o'clock is lunch, because I like to hear the news at 1.
Okay.
And then we meet again at 7 to eat.
So you get your daily feed of fear and death numbers at lunchtime.
That's right. Like to know where we are.
And then, Dad, you can worry about that all afternoon then. How many numbers are going up?
It's interesting because I've still got my consultancy business, which doesn't depend on going into an office or anything like that. It never has. I used to have a quarterly meeting I used to attend in town. Well, now we do it on Zoom, so it's very, very effective. And I do all that work still. So the company's still ticking over. I've got, because I'm the financial representative of the synagogue, I've probably got 3 to 4 hours work a day just to keep on top of what's going on with a synagogue with a membership of over 500 people.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, I've been doing it now for 3 years, and this last year was the year I was meant to retire from it.
Right.
But because of COVID, I felt uncomfortable about dropping them in it and just walking away. So I stayed on for another year. But it's coming up to the end in May. So just as we come out of lockdown, I might be able to go out and actually go to perhaps a conference on a socially distanced basis. I might be able to do that, something I used to love doing. I might even be able to go to a gym.
Yeah, well, you must miss that.
Pardon?
You must miss that.
I miss that enormously.
You go 3 times a week.
I used to go 3 times a week, and it was the focus. Having retired 18 years ago, can't believe it, but it was 18 years ago. I've been busy ever since, and thank goodness for that. I think the big decision we made was the big decision we made was it almost as though we were psychic in that respect, because we decided that if we were both going to be in all the time, what was the purpose of having 2 cars in the garage sitting there side by side doing nothing? So in October last year, we got rid of 1 car. In fact, we got rid of both and replaced it with a new car for Mum. And we haven't done anything else about that, because that car has done 286 miles
since October.
Since October.
I saw a friend yesterday, very briefly, dog walking, and when I was putting Rocky into the car, he hadn't seen my car for a year, and he said, "Oh, the car." I said, "Yeah, I haven't driven it anywhere. It's got 800 miles on it or something." But that's great. I've loved that. I mean, I drive a lot for work, and I have not missed being on the roads at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to try and miss the traffic around the M25. I really haven't. 3 to 5 hours a day I could spend in the car, which is lovely thinking time and decompressing time after working. But actually now my commute is much shorter. But I also miss the people side.
And do you miss flying around the world?
I never thought I'd say that. Because I got to a point a couple of years ago where I really wasn't enjoying it, and I'd done it for 15 years. So it was a long time. But I go to some beautiful places. So I'm not going to moan when I get taken to Singapore to do something I'm completely passionate about. I mean, that's fantastic. I don't get to holiday in those places, and sometimes I might do long haul overnight and come back the next day, and that can be hard work. But actually, I really miss the thought. I've got 3 or 4 clients at the moment who are exploring doing some workshops in the Netherlands, the Ukraine, the US, and Asia. And I
Can't do
maybe
it.
not. Well, obviously, well, I could actually once I'm vaccinated, because with any email from them, I would have the right to go
Would
after.
you?
Yeah. I'd sign a document, download it. They would email to invite me to come over for 4 days to do a leadership program, and I can travel freely, especially if I've got a vaccine. So actually, we could, but the problem is that the people they would want to come from all over Europe or all over Asia, and everybody's situation is so different that actually they can't be bringing in people from other countries.
Right.
And it becomes really complicated. So actually then Zoom becomes the go-to. Oh, we'll do it on Zoom. Oh, there are other platforms as well, but Zoom kind of popped to the top during lockdown. So yeah, I can't wait to get on a plane and travel somewhere for work. I've got a workshop booked in November, face to face. It's the only one between now and the end of the year that's face to face currently.
Where would that be, Bradley?
That will be at Ashridge Business.
Down the road.
Yeah, lovely, right? It will be absolutely, and it's a gorgeous location to do leadership in, and the room's massive, and you can open the doors to the forest. It's fantastic. Socially distanced in the room, and everyone who will be coming to that will all have been vaccinated because they'll all work for a health company. So it's it's
Safe.
as safe as it can be.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll probably still have to wear masks indoors, even then, even with vaccines.
I think so too.
But I did a workshop in August with a pharma company, and we all wore sort of PPE stuff, and it was impossible. I mean, to talk with a mask on, it just keeps coming down, and then you're just touching your face the whole time, which you're not meant to do. So it kind of just is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You've got to be, whoever's talking at a meeting has to be away from everybody else, so they don't have to wear a mask, but don't, I suppose, spit or spread the virus. Talk to me about then sort of the way when you think, so Dad, you were saying how actually you want to take a more cautious approach. You've taken a planned approach. Do you think that's the way you'll plan the route out of it? Because you like a plan.
Yes, I like a plan, but I think it's the motivation, if you like, is the core reason for the plan is our safety, and that will be the core reason. So we'll do everything, and quite interesting. I mean, one of the things we've talked about with Mummy is that there are certain children that she loves working with on a face-to-face basis, and we've actually drawn up our own, if you like, protocol, which says that if the whole family into which she goes are vaccinated completely, then, and she is vaccinated, it's safe for her to go in on a one-to-one with that child.
Well, actually, Bradley suggested that to me, didn't you, Bradley? I think you said.
You are the only people in the world who call me Bradley.
I'm the only one that calls you Bradley. I'm sorry, but that's who you are to me.
But yeah, I think exactly. If you've been vaccinated and everybody else has, then if we don't start mixing with those people, well, what's the point? The vaccine is meant to be a game changer. So if we don't take the opportunity to mix with people who have also had it, we're never going to go out again. We may as well just lock up and give up.
See, I go to one family I'd like to go and work with. There are 5 children and mother and father. So you've got 5 children going to different schools.
Oh no, I mean that's mental. It's madness.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, I think right now, as we're speaking, the highest growing number age group is 10 to 19.
Yeah, from school.
Yes.
Of course it is, because they're all together. And still the numbers are reducing, and I think that's really positive. And as long as we get through the next 3 weeks without anything from Europe popping over, we might be actually vaccinated enough people, to
keep it away.
Right, because we're over 50% now, and not 1 in 2 people in the country have it. So
brilliant.
There's more of us vaccinated than are getting it.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a good thing.
And the encouragement also of introducing a booster vaccine in the autumn for the first four groups,
Us oldies.
the first four groups as a booster that will take care of the Brazilian and the South African and other mutations of this virus. It's very encouraging. I mean, we have annually a flu jab. So if we had to have a COVID jab each year, that's what we do.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I have a concern that this vaccine and the anti-vaxxers or the people maybe who can't have a vaccine, we might end up with some serious discrimination problems because you won't be allowed into a pub, let's say, unless you've got a COVID vaccine
of some sort. Yeah.
Right. Now I get it for travel, because the world could actually say, couldn't they, if they wanted to, you can't come in unless you're jabbed.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go to Africa, certain parts of Africa, without a yellow fever certificate. So you have to go and get that, or you can't get in. You can't get in the country. And I think COVID might end up being similar for people.
Yes, I think you're right.
But I heard, the other day they're talking about, landlords being able to decide whether or not you can come in. Now, for you guys, you're saying, yeah, you'll have it. But what about if one of your friends doesn't want one or can't have one because of maybe a health condition? What happens to them then? They can't go to those places with you.
Tricky.
No.
Tricky.
I think it is.
But it's not a perfect world we live in anyway. And there's always compromises to be had. So I understand the civil liberty issue, but going back behind, way back, when you apply for a job, you want a job with a particular company, you have to fill in your CV and show your qualifications, what shows that you are demonstrated to be capable of doing that job. And it could be that having something like a COVID certificate with it ensures you come in. Now, for me, whilst I understand it's an intrusion on civil liberty, and so is it if I go for a job and I'm a chartered accountant and somebody else is a less accountant, there's a discrimination opportunity between the two of us. But that's how the world works.
But I don't think they're thinking of the passports, are they? The
They're
government.
thinking.
I can see it. I can see some kind of certification requirement for certain things. I definitely, you can feel it in the air. It's being discussed, which normally means it's on the agenda somewhere.
Yes, somebody's talking about it.
Right, at a high enough level for it to have been leaked.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. And I think that the problem we've got is in my world that I live in, organizational development and coaching and leadership, we talk about inclusive leadership a lot. And it's all about inclusion, diversity, bias, and understanding, being cognizant of your bias. And all those things that you were saying there, Dad, actually that comes into play with COVID, because people's attitude, there are some people who absolutely believe it was created in a lab and released in China. And you'll never be able to, get rid of those people's conspiracy theories. So I just wonder, when you kind of look forward of everybody, what do you think will be the first thing you actually do? Like when you imagine, because we're in the next 6 to 8 weeks of it, right? I think for you guys with your second jab coming. So what do you imagine will be the first thing you do where you'll realize it's behind you more than in front of you?
We've asked each other that question, actually. I've often said to Daddy, what do you think we'll do?
Yeah.
We haven't come up with an answer, actually, have we?
Well, I don't think there's anything one specific thing we'll do, but there are a series of things where we'll start to become more relaxed about some of the things we've put down, really regimented rules, like we don't go to a supermarket anymore.
Yeah.
We have a supermarket delivered to us. Now the delivery,
why would you? Because you can.
Yeah, but I mean, I said to Mummy, as soon as we started going on, we were having all these deliveries. We used to spend ages going into a supermarket, loading a trolley, coming out, loading the car, coming back to the flat, unloading the car, schlepping it upstairs into the flat. This way, somebody rings the bell and drops it on the doormat.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the beauty of online delivery.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I think the first thing we would want to do is to see all our family, children and grandchildren properly.
Yeah, I think
that's the first thing.
It's being able to give our kids a hug.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we've missed.
That's the thing for me, actually. I think that's when I'll know it's okay, will be when I can hug everybody again.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although I think, if I remember, on the times even during it would have been the summertime, I did go over to go for a walk with my niece, your granddaughter, when she came home for a few weeks. And when I saw my brother, actually, we just hugged. And then when I did, so I was doing some recording with Hugo, so I went round to his house, and of course my sister's there, so we like breathed the other way, but had a nice hug.
Yeah, well, we haven't had that joy, so that's the joy we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
So so actually, because I can think back, we would come and sit in like in the front garden, right? That was the last time, or sitting in the
in the garage.
Yeah, of your flat.
Yeah.
With you leaning over the side, and me and Rocky playing. Rocky's here, actually. Rocky,
hello, Rocky.
Rocky, come and say hi. Come on, look who's here. Come here, up. Say hi.
It's Grandma.
Hi, Rocky.
Rocky, it's Grandma. No, taking up a blind bit of notice. It's Grandma, yeah. Rocky. Hello.
That's nice. So look, I've got one last question for you both, and it's not who's your favourite, because we know the answer to that. What's your hope looking forward? So after this whole year, I've noticed that the world's become a bit more empathic. People have. I think governments maybe less so of late, with the way they communicate. But people seem to be more empathic. Everyone's been going through their own troubled storm. What do you hope for when you look forward? Because I know as I've got older, the things I value more are actually not the working and all those things. Actually, the things we value more are those times we do all spend together, because they get less and less. So I wonder for you, what do you hope for when you look forward?
Good results for Daddy's forthcoming tests.
Right. Okay. It's as simple as health, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to cry.
Oh no!
You won't cry. You won't cry. I think for us is one of the big things I can see on the horizon is that in 2022 we will book a cruise.
Right. Okay.
And that will be a giant step forward for us.
Yeah.
He'll take me on gagged and screaming, but
Well, as long as you're gagged, actually, that's probably good. Well, listen, count yourself lucky, because I'm sure you'll book somewhere lovely. I think they were talking about just cruising around the British Isles this year.
No.
I think that sounds like a fairly tour.
No, I'm not doing that.
No, we want to do something a little bit more exciting than that.
Yeah. No, well, I think that's good. Well, I'm gonna. Yeah. Well, actually, do you know what? I hope for the same thing, and mostly actually how we take for granted our freedom of movement.
Yes.
So I'm hoping actually not to forget how much I appreciate things like nature and going out for my walks, and using, the fact that I've got dogs and
a wife. Excuse me, and a wife.
But I don't take her for a walk.
She might walk with you with the dog.
But I don't take her for a walk. I'm talking about going out to go for a walk. So my hope to be able to do, those kinds of things and keep going, moving forward, I think is really, really important. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Look, we've made the time easily, right? Nearly 45 minutes. Thank you so much for coming on and being the last ever guest on the lockdown session.
It's our pleasure.
Our pleasure, Bradley.
Thank you, right? And well, based on lockdown rules, hopefully we'll be able to see you very soon.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Please God.
We hope so, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Lots
Thanks,
of love.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.